What's up, y'all? What's good people? Welcome to another edition of Thursday Conversations. So, I'm just by myself today. I don't have a special guest with me. I've had some people lined up and things didn't work out. So, it probably won't be a very long show today, but it is definitely a discussion or conversation I want to have with you just with what's going on. Uh, Man, it's been a heavy day. I'm sure we've been seeing and paying attention to what's happening around us, what's going on in the world, the funeral that occurred today with or for George Floyd, making sure that we recognize that it's not an isolated incident that occurred with him, but we definitely want to honor his life and honor the fact that his life was taken from us because of a lack of empathy and concern for humanity. That's the bottom line, is that George Floyd's life was taken because he was seen in some respect as less than human. There is no if, and, or buts about that. And if anyone wants to try and argue that, they can definitely try to argue that. But I will call bull each and every time for that argument to be before us. You have individuals that are going to and have already started trying to besmirch the movement and what's going on in the world and around the world that was kicked into full effect because of his death by talking about his lifestyle, his history, criminal history, which, if you're honest, there are some things, not maybe, there are some things that you will definitely look at and be like, wow, he did some things that aren't right, aren't just. He did some criminal activities and was involved in some things. Okay. But that does not take away from anything that is the movement and the reason that we are protesting and that protests are happening and the conversation. So please be very careful when you hear people try to turn the topic to what his lifestyle was before or even in his being arrested. What does that mean when it comes to the fact that he was treated inhumanely, and that is something that we see happening with police brutality all of the time? And again, it's not just that he was arrested, but he was not even able to be alive coming off the ground. You watch the video, you do see exactly that he's not living at this point when they pull him off the ground. And what my fear and concern is that it's happening and we don't always catch it on camera. And so there has to be that discussion of policing. What does that look like? What does that really mean? I actually did put a call out on my Facebook page. It was shared a few times. Last check out maybe 8 times, asking for a police officer to come and join me to have a conversation. Didn't get any response, not one message in my inbox to discuss that or ask about what was my concern or what did I even want to talk about. It was absolute silence in that regard. So I know people are busy. People have other things happening in life. I do feel if you really want to show unity and show an understanding for what's happening, the invitation will be a standing invitation. I'll put it like that. I will continue to reach out. I will continue to ask police officers who are interested in speaking and helping us to talk about police and community relations and what is being done and can be done differently. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the Milwaukee Police Department, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department. What is your steps, procedures, movement? What are you doing? So that is a cry or a plea that is out there. Again, whether or not it will be answered, that is that is yet to be seen. I will say that. So if you have any comments, feel free to type those out, and I will be looking at them as I talk a little bit more. As I said, this might not be a very long conversation or just or live today, but it is again necessary for me to reach you, to talk to you about those things that are happening and that are really on my mind. Another recent event, we had Drew Brees, who decided he was going to make a statement when asked about the protests and the things that were going on. And he quickly transitioned it to disrespecting the flag, the anthem, and all of the deflections that we see. And that's, again, why we need to have these conversations, why we need to talk about why those deflections are so counterproductive. And they don't show unity, they don't show an understanding. Because as he talked about his family members who were served and how that represents pride, and he doesn't feel that it's necessary to, or doesn't see it as proper, and as he was putting it, to kneel during that time. There are many of us who have parents. My father was in the military, my aunt was in the military, I have several other family members that were in the military. And for them to come home to the injustices, the racism, the discrimination, the biases, and all of those things, while yet serving under that same flag, is a real contradiction of what we say we stand for, but that is also what America has been based on, is contradiction. And we have to be real about that. There is an American basis and foundation of contradiction. And I'm going to talk about that a little more in just a moment as I go through my list of things for you to just keep an eye on and to be aware of. So, yeah, so Drew Brees issued an apology today, I believe it was. Yeah, today, talking about it was insensitive for him to make that statement. And he was right. However, I really hope that he and many others realize why that was insensitive and what does that really say about, again, our country. If we are so easily able to make those assumptions and mistakes without really knowing the true rooted history and how the protests of police violence are necessary and real, as well as not even just getting stuck there. Because George Floyd's funeral was today, and we've got the trial of his murderers that's gonna be coming up. We still need to keep momentum, and we still also have to be real about, it's not just the police that are the issue. It's about also the constant eyes that are watching Black folks as if they're doing something wrong every single time. The fact that police are being called for nonsense when it comes to Black people, when it comes to brown people, police are being called, 911 is being abused, and that's another issue. And that's not being really talked about as much as the police brutality issue, which has to be talked about, needs to be discussed, but also the conversations that we need to have with white America about making sure that you recognize my humanity, my dignity, and my right to live. My right to go to Airbnb, my right to birdwatch, my right to deliver packages, my right to exist. And we're not seeing that as heavily discussed because of what's happened in Minneapolis, but it is a part of that whole culture. And we want to make sure that we stay focused on the entirety of race and discrimination, because it is really important not to lose the sight of that. Because if we do clean up police departments and we still have this nonsense of people calling the police and telling Black folks that they don't belong where they are, or they are constantly being challenged about their existence or reasons for being in a certain space, we're not making the progress we need to make. So we have to be real about the issues. We have to be honest with ourselves. And again, do the work. On my Facebook page, I put up a couple of posts this last week talking about doing the work. making sure that you're studying, you're understanding what's going on, you're paying attention to the history of this nation and why African American Black folks are tired, why we are frustrated, why we are constantly having these conversations amongst ourselves. And now a lot of white America of this generation is entering into that space of those conversations. And white America being aware that these conversations are not new to us. So sometimes we don't want to have these conversations with you in the moment you want to have these conversations. So you being respectful of that and doing the work, researching. There's a book about it. I promise you, there's several books about the truth of what's happened in America and why we are to this point, the systematic and the systemic oppression that Black folks have been under and have dealt with and have endured, and that this isn't the first death at the hand of a white man. When it comes to George Floyd, if you look and you study history and you want to be real, you need to see the pictures and the photographs. You should, because this isn't new. Black deaths have been sporting events and watched activities in America. Lynchings and hangings and burnings, these things have been crowd gathering events that people have stood around to see a Black body swing from a tree or burn. And so this is where, again, the truth is, and the truth is rooted, that America has always lived itself or created itself its double identity. And we have to be real to separate that from reality and from the make-believe. So knowing that and understanding that, that brings me to the funeral. Reverend Sharpton used the analogy of the knee to the neck, which is a great analogy. It's definitely something that I've talked about with my friends and those who are doing this work, the knee to the neck, the foot to the neck, because what our systems are often doing is they're creating rules, policies, and all of these things that aren't removing the foot from your neck. Is not removing the oppression. They're telling you, oh, I'm gonna just adjust my foot, and you have to figure out how you're gonna breathe. You're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna make it with my foot still there, with my knee still there. How am I going? You're gonna have to figure out how you're going to navigate your life under my oppression. That's bull. And that's a part of the systems that white America, you're going to have to help break. You're going to need to be leading some of this charge because you're the ones who are benefiting the most from it. Voices of privilege have to be able to speak to their privilege and also be willing to get out of the way so other voices can step into those spaces. I know that's a tough one to swallow. Being able to say, yes, I need to just step out of the way, allow someone else to take this reign, to lead this organization, because I'm not capable of doing it effectively. Could you be an advisor? Could you help to speak to some of the truths that need to be spoken to? Absolutely. But stepping out of the way is going to be some of the ways that you as white America are going to help and be a true ally, as some have talked about, or we talked about last week, or as well as a co-conspirator, as my guy Jamal E. Smith said. We need you to be a co-conspirator. And how do we disrupt these systems that are constantly oppressing Black, brown, Native people? So when I talk about the America's ability to have this double-mindedness, I think of Dr. Joy DeGruy, and I put a few of her clips on my page. So if you are wanting to do the work, I'm helping you get started to do the work. I'm helping you and I'm assisting you. So I want you to go to my Facebook page, click on those links, those YouTube pages, and check out her work. And they're not very long clips. So I don't want you to say you don't have the time, you don't have the energy to do it. Click on those clips and understand some of the things that she's talking about when it comes to post-traumatic slave disorder or slave syndrome. Look at what she's talking about when she talks about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is really the idea of simultaneously holding contradictory ideas, beliefs, attitudes. Simple, right? But that's America. That's being able to say, I'm okay with my privilege because this is, you can explain it away. Or Black people have this ability or habit, and this is why this is happening to them. And I can believe two different things at the same time because it works for me to believe that. So that's cognitive dissonance. And we need to speak to that. And we need to understand that there are many who are still working to be allies and co-conspirators who are stuck in cognitive dissonance. And we have to break out of that in order for any movements to happen. And then the idea of epigenetics is also talked about in one of the clips. And that's how through our DNA, things such as fear, such as trauma, such as just oppression can be passed generationally. So I really believe that that is something that we need to understand. And when we say, why do some people think this way, or why do Black people have this apprehension or this concern, really understanding that this is not just because we woke up, but we were born into this. And a lot of us have traumas that are passed down through our genes that we don't even understand. And we have to go through the work to understand and to heal. And so in one of the clips, she talks about doing the personal work because being Black in America, you have a lot of anxiety. You have a lot of fear. You have a lot of panic. You have these things that there has to be some type of mental health work as well. And then there also has to be the work that we are working to understand and break down the systems that are set to oppress and injure people of color. Black folk, brown folk, Native folk. There are systems that are in place and they are designed to oppress and injure, and you have to recognize that. So with that being said, I've said my little piece. I don't have any guests today, but I do thank you for jumping on with me, listening. Pass this on to someone else. Spread it, share it. Let people know that this is a space that they can come to just get their wheels turning. So please share this as many times as you can. I will be back next Thursday for more Thursday conversation. I thank you for, again, checking out my Facebook page and going through and clicking on the different talks of Dr. Joy DeGruy and her work and what she's doing, because it's not new work. She's been doing this for years. But at this point, this is something we really want to tap into as a tool. She is a resource that definitely has done the study, has done the work, has done the academics, because a lot of people want the academia. They want to have the facts. They want to have the studies. So she's done that work for us. And knowing that, you are able to then take that work and then apply it to your life, put it in your toolbox, because you have to have different tools for different occasions. And if you are true to this work, you're going to put as many tools into that toolbox as you can. And I will reiterate, if you are true to the work, if it's lip service, it's going to all come out and we'll see it as lip service. It's going to be recognizable. So continue to be safe. Continue to move in a space of change, protest, continue to engage, continue to agitate, continue to break the system, because the system is working, but it needs to be broken. So we have to break the system, and then we put in place, and as we're breaking, we need to develop what's taking the place of that broken or that working system once we break it. Right. So with that, y'all have a good one. I enjoy talking to you, and I will speak with you all soon.